What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Pitching Ninja's filthiest pitches of the day. Remember, before we get to those pitches, hit that subscribe button. Be a part of the biggest and best daily baseball show on YouTube. And now, without further ado, here are my filthiest pitches of the day. I'm going to start out with Max Scherzer, who had this changeup that got the bend the knee, and this cutter. He had 3 Ks in 3 innings, giving up only 1 hit. Why'd he go only 3 innings? Well, that was the big story. Max got ejected for foreign substances. He got checked by Phil Cuzzi after the 2nd inning, who found clumps of rosin on his hand and asked him to wash it off. And his hands felt sticky, which is what rosin does when it's mixed with sweat. And because rosin is sticky, Max used alcohol to wash it off, which is better than soap and water. And he apparently did it in front of an MLB official. He was then checked before the 3rd inning, and they found the pocket of his glove was sticky. Which, guess what? It happens when your hands are sticky because of rosin and sweat. And anyone that's pitched would tell you that. Max then got a new glove and was checked again before the 4th inning, where they found it was sticky again, and they tossed him. Now here's some important points to remember. This umpiring crew has been at it before. Dan Bellino had this run-in with Madison Bumgarner during a foreign substance check, and he's on this crew. And Phil Cuzzi has been involved in the only 2 other ejections of pitchers for foreign substances, Hector Santiago and Caleb Smith. So either pitchers are only cheating when these guys are umping, or these guys are super detectives and able to spot stuff no one else is, or they're just jerks who want to F with pitchers and make the game all about themselves. You can make the call. Dodgers announcer Orel Hershiser, the opposing announcer who did his share of pitching, had these comments after the ejection.
I don't know how they judge what level of tackiness is illegal. And rosin, believe me, is sticky. But I think we've come to a place there when you're kicking Max Scherzer out that we need to inspect what's going on.
And here's what Max had to say about the incident.
So after the 2nd inning, my hand, it was a little clumpy from the rosin and sweat, and Phil told me to wash it off, so I washed it off. I wash it with alcohol. The alcohol for a little bit there can be sticky in rosin. That can happen. So he was like, that's too sticky. You need to go back on there, wash it off again. And so I did that, and then at the same time, he thought my glove had too much rosin on it. And I was like, okay, if that's a problem, and there's nothing going on. He's like, you need a new glove. Like, okay. So come back out, pitch the 3rd. Knew I was going to get checked in the 4th. So I'd have to be an absolute idiot to try to do anything when I'm coming back out for the 4th. I'm in front of the MLB official that's underneath here. I wash my hand with alcohol in front of the official. I then apply rosin, and then I grab sweat. When I then go back out there, and Phil Cuzzi says that my hand's too sticky. When you use sweat and rosin, your hand is sticky. But I don't get how I get ejected when I'm in front of MLB officials doing exactly what you want and being deemed my hand's too sticky when I'm using legal substance. I do not understand that.
As for me, I thought it was awesome because I tuned in to watch Dan Bellino and Phil Cuzzi umpire instead of Max Scherzer pitch, so this was freaking awesome. I hope you can tell that was my sarcastic voice. Max now faces a 10-game possible suspension, which I can't imagine MLB is going to uphold. Personally, I find it incredibly doubtful that a first ballot Hall of Famer and a union player rep is going to cheat over and over again in a game despite being warned. And of course, remember, rosin is completely legal and sweat obviously is legal. Anyway, let me know your thoughts on this situation in the comments. Max was up against Noah Syndergaard, who had 2 Ks in 6 innings, giving up only 2 runs and had these changeups. Johnny Brito had 3 Ks in 4 1/3 innings, giving up only 3 hits and had this curveball, fastball, and changeup. Griffin Canning had 4 Ks in 5 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs and had this 91-mile-an-hour changeup and slider. Alex Cobb had 8 Ks in 5 innings, giving up only 1 run. He had his splitter going, which was absolutely nasty, as well as these 2-seamers. And he got Jazz on this front door 2-seamer. Look at Jazz Chisholm's reaction on this. He thought he was going to wear it, and it ends up in the zone. He was up against Trevor Rogers, who had 3 Ks in 3 innings, giving up only 1 run, who had these fastballs and got the sword. Spencer Turnbull had 3 Ks in 5 1/3 innings, giving up 3 runs. He had these fastballs, including this one where his fastball kind of looked like a cutter. This happens to Turnbull sometimes. And he was up against Cal Quantrill, who had 4 Ks and 6 scoreless innings and had this changeup and this cutter. But to be honest, I think Mike Zunino, his catcher, deserves partial credit for this K, for this grab. Joe Ryan had 3 Ks and 6 innings with his sweeper and fastball. Ty Walker had 3 Ks and 6 1/3 innings and had his splitter and curveball working. Madison Bumgarner didn't have a great outing, but did have this great dispute with Wilson Contreras. You can see Wilson Contreras yells after fouling off this pitch, and Mad Bum is none too happy about it, because that's what Bumgarner does. And Contreras yells right back at him. He then walks and bat flips his walk. And of course, Mad Bum wasn't happy about that either. Eric Lauer had 4 Ks and 7 2/3 innings, giving up only 2 runs, and had this cutter and fastball. He faced off against Marco Gonzalez, who was outstanding. He went 6 innings with 9 Ks, nice, and only gave up 2 runs. Those 9 Ks tied Gonzalez's career high in strikeouts. He had this curveball, changeup, and fastball, and screamed after his 9th K. I freaking love it. Martin Perez had this painted 2-seamer and bend-the-knee changeup and had 3 Ks in 5 2/3 innings, giving up 3 runs. He was up against Brady Singer, who honestly wasn't very good. He gave up 5 runs in 5 innings and had 4 strikeouts, but did have these pretty 2-seamers. Jose Barrios had these dirty breaking balls, 3 Ks in 7 innings, giving up 2 runs. And he faced off against Luis Garcia, who was really good. Garcia had 9 strikeouts and 7 scoreless innings, giving up only 2 hits. He K'd the side in the first with a fastball, cutter, and timer violation. That's always awesome. And started the game with the first 6 outs being strikeouts. Garcia's cutter was great. I know it looks kind of like a slider, but he calls it a cutter. And he got a sword with this cutter. He also had a dominant fastball and this nasty changeup. Mackenzie Gore had these curveballs and changeup on his way to 7 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 3 runs. And he dueled Kyle Bradish, who had 6 Ks and 6 scoreless innings, giving up only 5 hits. Bradish's curveball looked really good, and had this one that was totally painted, and had a nasty slider working. And here's an overlay of his fastball and slider, and you can see why he would get a chase on his slider. Those pitches look the same until they're not. Drew Rasmussen had 7 Ks and 5 scoreless innings. His fastball was in the upper 90s, and he had these sweepers, although unfortunately due to the camera angle, they actually look like splitters or something. Trust me though, I have the movement data on them, and they're sweepers. Johann Oviedo was great yesterday with 6 Ks and 6 innings, giving up only 1 run. He had this curveball and painted 97-mile-an-hour fastball and these sliders. An excellent outing in Colorado, which we all know is a tough place to pitch. Charlie Morton had his 3,000 RPM curveball working and had 5 Ks and 6 innings, giving up only 1 run. But he was outdueled by Nick Martinez, who was great. Martinez had 6 Ks in 7 scoreless innings, giving up 3 hits, thanks to his curveballs and fastballs. Justin Steele had these sliders and fastballs on his way to 5 strikeouts in 6 innings, giving up only 1 earned run. And he faced off against yesterday's filthiest pitcher of the day, a newly called up Mason Miller. Yes, I have seen the future of pitching, and his name is Mason Miller. He had 5 Ks in 4 1/3 innings, giving up 2 runs, but that doesn't even come close to telling the story. Oh my freaking God, this guy is a force of nature. If you have a fantasy team, pick him up. He had this 100-mile-an-hour fastball for an inadvertent paint, and his fastball was up to 102.5 miles an hour. He had a 97-mile-an-hour cutter, wicked sliders, and I just want to sum up his stuff in this one ridiculous at-bat against Patrick Wisdom. Here's a slider in the dirt for a sword. Then he throws a slider on the outer third of the plate and gets a buckle on it. Throws a 102-mile-an-hour fastball for this sword foul. Throws another 102-mile-an-hour fastball, and you can see the sink and run on that. But that's obviously a ball. And then finishes Wisdom off with this elevated 102-mile-an-hour heat. He made him look like a little leaguer. And here's an overlay of Miller's 102-mile-an-hour fastball and his slider, and you can see why as a hitter, you have no chance. Miller got called up because he was destroying hitters in the minor leagues. This year, he's faced 29 minor league hitters and K'd 19 of them, and had a .23 whip. In his minor league career, he's K'd 53 hitters in 28 2/3 innings, while walking only 6 hitters. If there's another league higher than the major leagues, he'll probably get called up to that too, because his stuff is disgusting. Now on to my filthiest relievers. Bryan Abreu had this nasty slider. Adam Ottavino had this filthy sinker that might have been a little low, but we'll take it. Wandy Peralta had this changeup and slider. Tanner Scott had these wipeout sliders. Thaddeus Ward had these filthy sweepers. Josh Hader had this heat. Pete Fairbanks had this 99-mile-an-hour fastball. Camilo Doval had this 101-mile-an-hour diesel. Michael King had these two-seamers that ran 20 inches and 21 inches. Gregory Soto had these wipeout sliders. Alex Lang got swords on curveballs back-to-back. I saw these views of Tyler Rogers' mechanics on yesterday's broadcast, and I thought I'd share them with you because I thought they were great. You can see his funky mechanics in slow motion. And this rear view really lets you see how much his fastball sinks. And my filthiest reliever of the day yesterday was Bryan Baker. Not just for these changeups, but for these K poses and K struts. Look at that K pose and then the back pedal K strut off the field. I love it. And now my pitching ninja moment of zen. I guess these guys heard there were ducks on the pond and wanted to check it out.
A couple RBI sitting out there.
There you go. Here's our split screen. And the 2-2 is fouled back.
What is up, everybody? I want to let you know about this special offer I convinced FanDuel to do. It's a 25% Pitching Ninja Profit Boost token. You can use this Pitching Ninja Profit Boost token to boost your profits on any straight MLB bet on FanDuel. For example, I'd use mine on Kodai Senga today to have 7 Ks or more. It's a great way to have your bets pay off higher and win a lot of green on 420.
Awesome! Totally awesome!
Aside from the straight bet on Kodai Senga, my picks of the day today are a 3-leg parlay. I'm going to take Kenta Maeda for 4 Ks or more, and then take Jameson Taillon for 5 Ks or more, and top it off with Kodai Senga for 7 Ks or more. What would your picks of the day be?